Hello and welcome to Take You to School with Dr. Tom Prichard. I'm your host, JP John Paz with Two Man Power Trip. And of course, the star of the show, the former WWE World Tag Team Champion, the Doctor of Desire himself, Dr. Tom Prichard. Dr. Tom, how you doing today, sir?
It's going great today, John. It never ends. The world keeps spinning around, and we keep hearing new things on a regular basis, and it's getting to be a smaller and smaller world every day. So,
Yes.
yeah, crazy things happening this time around.
Unfortunately, starting off with a bit of a sad note, your trainer and one of the greatest of all time, the Iron Sheik, has passed away at the age of 81. R.I.P. Sheiky baby.
Yes, yes, yes. It's going to happen to us all, but we knew Sheik was in bad health for a while now. So,
Yep.
uh, it's I know it's something that was expected and shouldn't be a surprise, but every time I read something like that or hear something like that, or you sent me a text
Yep.
and in the initial shock, you go, oh man, you know it's coming, but when it comes, you're not always. I don't think anybody's ready for it.
Yep.
So yeah, rest in peace, Sheik.
Hi to Ibsen. Hello to Jason, and Jason throws out there R.I.P. Sheiky baby. Yes.
Yes, 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 yes. He was the first guy who. Let's see, Sheik
R.I.P. Iron Sheik. Iran number one. Russia number one. America. Fatui.
Patui.
Tui. He made me LOL with that. He'll be truly missed. That is from Silo Ren.
Well, Khosrow he was a authentic guy, and I first met him when he was wrestling with Muhammad Farouk in Houston, and I thought it was when I was 15. I started working in the office when I was 15, but it was closer to when I was 17, I guess, when I went down to the Coliseum with him, and it was myself and a football player, and I'm expecting him to put on his Iron Sheik. He wasn't the Iron Sheik then, but he had his curled-toed boots. I expect him to put those on, but he puts on a wrestling singlet and wrestling shoes and proceeds to take me out to the ring and teach not only myself, but this big time former pro football player who thinks wrestling's a breeze and pretty easy stuff. But he stretched both myself and this guy. And he discouraged him. He didn't come back after the second week. But
Wow, this is a legit football player that he.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because wrestling's all fake and phony. You don't have to really work hard at it. But back then, they really tried to discourage. They broke Hogan's leg and
Yeah.
would do stuff like that in Florida. But yeah, it's one of those things that once I did break in, once I started wrestling, I wound up in Atlanta when Sheik was there and wrestled a few times, Columbus, Augusta, and around the territory, and always had a fun time with him. He was always a character, but I think people didn't see the real Sheik. He knew when to be Sheiky baby and when to chill out most of the time. So yeah, but I will say rest in peace on our Sheik. Anybody he was in a bad way for the last couple of years. I hadn't seen him in a while, but I heard rumors and people telling me that he was sick and not doing well. So it's going to come to everyone. But rest in
Barbara.
Sheik.
Yep.
Yes.
Barbara. R.I.P. Iron Sheik. Iran number one. JD. Hello from Florida. Not believing the news. Rest easy, Sheiky baby.
Well, believe it, JD, because it happened. It's the Sheiky baby was not in good health at all. Chris, hello.
Hello, Chris. Jason, I saw an old WWF match with Sheik. He was the Great Hassan. Different name, same type gimmick.
Yeah, he was Hassan the Arab in other places too. Muhammad Farouk in Texas for a while, and then when he finally came into the Iron Sheik gimmick, that was Cosgrove, Missouri. I read a story not too long ago that he actually reached out to Ed Farhat, the original Sheik, about using the name. Have you heard this?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
so you might know more about it than I would. Then I casually read it.
I just heard that he gave him the okay. Like, yeah, you could
Yeah,
use it because you're not the Sheik or the Iron Sheik, so it's a little bit different. But he was
yeah,
okay with him using it.
yeah. So that's kind of cool. That was obviously something that the original Sheik worked hard to accomplish his credibility in the business. So now he's passing it along. That's great. That's awesome. So
Chris says, "Whoops, hey guys, love the show." Then he threw in there, "Doesn't he get a pile of virgins to humble in heaven or something like that?" I'm not sure the currency value of them hairy holes. Interesting,
well,
interesting.
interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure how that works. If it's seven virgins or a bunch or a pile, I'm not sure how much constitutes a pile either. But wherever he's going, I think he'll be okay.
No more making Brian Blair humble though.
No,
Those
but
days are over.
he'll be waiting at the gate to make Baron Blair humble. Sure, well, I
Ibsen
can't
has asked,
believe
"Where did you first meet the Sheik?" He said, "Houston, Texas." Believe it or
Houston,
not.
Texas. Yeah, yeah,
Barbara says, "Please ask Dr. Tom about training with the Sheik. He seemed to be very well respected with other wrestlers."
yeah. The Iron Sheik was very well respected with everybody because he was an amateur wrestler. He was a great wrestler in Iran, and when he came over here, he helped break people in with Vern Gagne. Vern Gagne was a big deal on amateur wrestling and authentic wrestlers, and Sheiky Baby was as authentic as it got. But I think just the mere fact that this guy was an Olympic champion, went to the Olympics as an alternate, I think, for Iran, but he came back as a hero. And I finally watched the biography where,
Oh, nice.
yeah, the wrestler that he admired, I can't remember the name, but the wrestler who was a huge hero in Iran, wound up getting killed because he was outspoken about
The
the
Shaw, yeah.
Shah. Yeah, yeah, and I think Sheik saw that and said, "Yeah, I don't know if I need to hang around here too much because
Can't trust them.
can't trust him." And as we see what's going on everywhere in the world, I mean, it's just chaos. And back in those days, when late '70s, mid '70s, when he came over to the States, I think, it was. There's a lot of stuff going on, and a lot of people don't understand what Sheik went through. He was such a great wrestler. He became a bodyguard for the Shah of Iran, and then that regime became brutal, and everybody went nuts, and they took some of the Americans from the embassy hostage, and that's where Sheik found some great success as one of the hottest heels in the business at that time. Sheiki Baby and Skandar Akbar and anybody with a Middle Eastern gimmick immediately were hot heels wherever they were.
From Brian L. Benson, he says, "Does the rubber chicken that flew into the ring at WrestleMania 39 have a future in the WWE?" Sorry, Burson is the last name there. Does the chicken? Do you remember the WrestleMania 39 when the chicken came in the ring after Cody lost? The rubber chicken.
Anything is possible in WWE. Let me just say that. Yes,
Yes. Wow.
anything is
That
possible.
sounds like a line from High Above there in WWE. Anything is
Sure,
possible on the
anything's
World
possible.
Wrestling Federation.
We
Yes.
can make it all happen. They might even be able to book God in a match.
Whoa. Maybe God and Shawn Michaels. Yes. Together.
Hmm.
Yes.
I think Vince wants that booking.
Does Sheik have a better run with Hulk Hogan or with Sergeant Slaughter, in your opinion?
Um, I think just the fact that it was the Sheik dropping the title to Hogan had a lot more consequence to it and meant more. And Slaughter was a great angle, and Slaughter was a great a run there. But I think doing it against Hogan himself and dropping the belt, I don't think there was anybody in the world at that time who looked the part, was the part, and earned the part. You got to remember those guys were uh, starting from the ground up. Really, they were pioneering a whole new whole new thing with the internet coming into effect, and Hogan becoming the face of WWF at that time. I think there was no better heel that you could pin this on and make the world champion than Sheik. He beat Bob Backlund, the All-American boy, and now he's going against the All-American hero, and he does the job in spectacular fashion. So right there in Madison Square Garden, the most famous address in the world. So I think the Hogan match and I think the Hogan run certainly it was not necessarily better, but it meant more in my opinion.
The Slaughter Sheik matches are great and bloody as hell too. I mean, there's some really good ones between them, but I'm gonna have to go Hogan as well. His appearances on Howard Stern were legendary. Yes, totally
Yes.
agree. Those were awesome.
Yes, they were, and he knew. That's what I was saying earlier. He knew when to be Sheik. He knew what they wanted. He understood if he was on Howard Stern, what Howard Stern's audience wanted.
Yep.
So he was a smart guy, and part of being a smart guy is not let everybody know how smart you really are. And at least that's my opinion. That's what I think he was doing. Is he knew his persona. He knew what people wanted to hear. He knew when to do it. He knew when to slink back into calm mode, and don't let somebody set him off. So
crazy like a fox.
Crazy like a fox. Yes.
Doing my best at hell of a run. I totally agree. Phil, good evening, John and Dr. Tom, and our esteemed chatters. Godspeed, Iron Sheik, a world-class athlete and incredible character. From Phil, I totally agree.
Well, I agree. Yes. Definitely a world-class athlete. This guy trained like a maniac. And was always in great shape, I thought. Even when he had that big belly, he could still suplex people all over the place and do the Iranian clubs or Persian clubs, whatever they were called back then.
Yep.
But yeah, I agree.
From Chuck, thank you, Mr. Sheik, for all the memories that make me smile. Even now, I'm fortunate to have seen you wrestle JYD in Mississippi and Jerry Lawler in Memphis, both in 1982. Glad I went to those matches. God bless. From Chuck Arnold. Thank you.
I forgot that Sheik was in Memphis for a while, and that was a place that on the west side of Tennessee, hell, the entire state of Tennessee. Let me just say that. You got real mountain people, and you've got farmers, and you got people that want to believe in wrestling. But they want to cheer, they want to boo. And by God, when this son of a gun comes from Iran, and he's talking about Haran number one, USA Patui, that got under their skin. And Jerry Lawler was the quintessential baby face wherever he went in West Tennessee. So, yeah, that made for a great heel. That made for a great angle. And wrestling JYD in Mississippi must have been a ton of heat, especially back in '82. The dog was so hot.
He got so much heat, he'd tell the crowd not to chant USA, USA, and the crowd would just chant USA, USA.
Those daggum people, they wouldn't listen to our Iranian friend. He was just trying to help them out.
Bobby Heenan, this is from Scorch. Bobby Heenan said Andre the Giant used to stretch the Iron Sheik in the ring by rowing his arms like a boat. Is that in fact true?
Only Sheik and Andre know for sure if he was being stretched, because that was a surfboard hold, and that was a pretty simple hold.
Yep.
And I think my personal opinion is I think they both liked each other because they understood where the heat was coming from, and Andre was a pretty sharp guy too, and Cosro knew who and how to get heat on Andre with. So, yeah, I don't know. I think that was Andre working. Andre would get a bad rap. I know I've heard about sitting on people, farting on them, and squashing people. But he only did that to people he didn't care for or thought was being disrespectful. And I don't think Andre for a minute thought the Iron Sheik was disrespectful. I mean, only they know for sure, but that's just my opinion.
From Charles, do you think they'll ever give Jacob Fatu a shot in the WWE when his MLW contract runs out, or maybe his criminal record is preventing him from being signed?
Well, I hope nothing's going to prevent him from being signed eventually because that is a talented guy. Jacob Fatu is incredibly talented, and he'd be great to have on anybody's roster. That's why I think MLW is doing their best to try and keep him right where he's at. But yeah, I think reality is you want to bring a guy like that over to WWE and put him in the bloodline.
Yep.
Because he will capture the imagination of everybody. He is talented. Hell of a guy. Hell of a talent. So I hope they do. I hope WWE gets him before too soon.
How was Iron Sheik backstage when he managed the Sultan? You were still there tag teaming with Skip in the fall of '96.
I think Khosrow was happy to be there and doing something. He was great to have around. Always entertaining, always funny. That's why I say you need guys like that in the locker room. You need people to make things flow, keep it going. And the Iron Sheik did. He knew how to tell a story. He understood. So
Please ask Dr. Tom if he ever tried the Persian clubs.
yes, and I could not do them. I picked them up, and it's a balancing deal. It's got to be a balancing deal because they're just too heavy to do it anywhere else. It's a gimmick. It's a trick to it, but you have to know how to do the trick, and it still takes strength. I couldn't do it. I tried. I did.
Chris says, I remember the feud between Hulk Hogan and the Iron Sheik. So did I. Actually, we kind of was hoping it would actually be longer. They only had a few return matches after Hogan, and the one big return match that they really built up at MSG, Hogan beats him in like 4 minutes, even quicker than the original match. So like they were really kind of not pushing him down, but they were really kind of making the point that like Hogan is the man now, and Sheiky is,
well, I think they knew they understood they were going towards. So what year was that?
1984.
Okay, so they knew they were headed towards WrestleMania. They knew they were headed for a big show. They knew, and they needed to move on. And they kept Sheiky Baby around with
Volkov. Of course, WrestleMania, him and Volkov won the tag titles. Yeah,
sure. So, yeah, it was. I think he was great. It was great for him to be a part of this startup going towards WrestleMania. I mean, he was credible. He's from Iran, legit. He was a character, and he had that aura about him. He was a bigger, to me, you didn't realize how big he actually was until you stood next to him. And he was a solid, I don't know, I want to say 240, 250. He might have been even more, but man, he was a solid guy. And when you got next to him, stood next to him, or when he grabbed you, he was solid. So, I think they just had to get out of that and move on.
I wonder if the Sheik and superstar Billy Graham are working an angle in heaven. Interesting.
Well, I think both those guys work angles wherever they go. You buy a picture, I sign. You give me French fries, I sign. Yeah. And Billy probably give you 2-for-1 and a free Iron Sheik picture for $5. I don't know.
The last two heel champions pre Hogan era there.
Yeah.
Sheiky Baby and the great superstar. Michael says R.I.P. Sheiky and Miss Sheiky. He misses him.
Well, yeah, but I missed him for a while. I mean, I hadn't seen him in a while, and a lot of the guys I knew early on aren't here anymore, or I've lost contact with. Mark Lewin's a guy, I think he lives off of the island up by Seattle on the Pacific Northwest. I haven't talked to Mark in a long time, and a lot of things I would like to tell him. but that's the nature of the business. You go away, you lose contact. This was long before we had cell phones or computers or anything like that, or Facebook. And but I missed Sheiky Baby for a long time. I haven't talked to him. Last time I saw him was at IWF in New Jersey.
Wow, that must have been a while ago.
Well, Eric Sims brought him by. Yeah, it was a few years. Oh God, over 15 years ago. So, but it's just you get out of touch with people, and that's the way the business works.
Did the Sheik genuinely care for Backlund through conversations with the boys?
I don't know. I don't know what she thought about Backlund. I'm sure I would imagine he had respect for Bob because Bob could wrestle and was a tough guy. But I don't know what his feelings were, honestly, because I never asked him.
Dr. Tom, was there heat with Sheik and B. Brian Blair? What did Brian have to say?
I don't know where the heat came from, if there was any.
So I interviewed Brian a few months ago, and I asked him. I said, "Is that work? Is that a shoot? Like, what's the deal with I'm going to humble Brian Blair, and it's always about you?" So he was saying many years ago when he first got into the business, they were doing training camps, and all the wrestlers come around the ring, and they'd all try Sheik out, and he would go like in Florida, so he'd kind of go through. He said he would destroy everybody, so he kind of was like, "Okay, here's Brian Blair. Okay, let's see what you got." So he kind of was like, not ragdolling him, but like almost playing it slow. And Blair was aggressive, and he was actually a better wrestler than Sheik gave him credit for. So the boys were like, "Wow, you didn't kill him like you killed everybody else." Ooh, Brian Blair got the best of you. So the boys kept egging him on. So he said he didn't really get the best of Sheik, but he did better than everyone else. So the guys had to bust Sheik's balls about something. So he said that must have stuck with Sheik forever because in his head, Brian Blair, I humbled him. So basically, what Sheik should have done, just killed him like he killed everybody else. But he didn't. So the boys busted his balls, and Brian Blair said that's the only thing he could think of that stuck with Sheik, and because the boys were ripping him about it.
Well, and that makes sense. Something like that I could see with a guy who has such pride, and even come as close to the Olympics as he did. I mean, going to the Olympics, I couldn't even imagine. But that's another level altogether. So when you have a guy like Brian Blair and the boys are saying, "Oh, he got you, Sheiky Baby."
Yeah, he went up to you.
Yeah. Oh, look at that! You weren't so tough there, were you? This guy had never been out of Tampa and he got you. Yeah, I think he would probably take exception to that. But
apparently, Blair is pretty tough. I don't know if you have any background, but apparently pretty tough.
I'm not doubting that at all. I'm not doubting that at all. I've known Brian for a long time. But
your best buddies with Paul Orndorff, you better be tough, right?
I guess, you got to at least hold your own. And I think Brian could hold his own.
Yep.
I just don't know what happened with Sheiky and him.
I love that, though. Make you humble, Brian Blair.
Mm-hmm.
FENA, that's great. Did the Sheik ever see you train wrestlers at your school?
No, he did not.
Was Dr. Tom ever in world class when Eric Embry was champion?
Not when Eric was champion. No. When I started out, I did some shots at Sportatorium in Fort Worth and Oklahoma, Mississippi, Louisiana. I did shots from October 20th all the way through January of the next year. October 20th, 1979 through January of 1980, I was making shots all over the place for Bill Watts, Leroy McGurk. That's where I met Brian and Jimmy Garvin in Oklahoma. And going to the Sportatorium with Boyd Pierce and trying to think of who else. But I worked around that southeast part of the country, and but when Eric was champion world class wrestling, no, I was never there. I was there later on when Eric was booking for Memphis, and we were taking the bus to Dallas on a Thursday night, get there on a Friday, and hang out and wrestle that night and drive all night, get to Memphis. I mean, to me, that was actually a cool ride because we do Monday Memphis, Tuesday Louisville, Wednesday spot show, Thursday spot show. Then everybody would meet at the Kmart parking lot in Hendersonville, Tennessee, and get on a nice tour bus. And you had bunk beds, or the guys would stay up all night and roll in Dallas probably about 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. Baby faces usually go to the gym. The heels would find a couch to crash on in the back and get ready for the day and the night.
Loved Sheik's interviews with Gene Mean. Yes, the Gene
Yeah,
Mean.
Gene Min knows the Iron Sheik how to talk to him. So
Sheik used to pop Mean Gene, which was hard to do. I know he hardly ever broke, but Sheik would break him.
yeah.
Dr. Pritch, can you give us one or two of your best backstage heat moments or funniest backstage Sheiky baby ribs you can recall from over the years?
I don't recall anybody ever ribbing Sheik, or him ever ribbing anybody else. But you know, I think the one backstage thing was when somebody told Sheik baby he was going to be tested, and he said, "You can test me, I don't care." So for the you have to pee in a bottle test. So he came back and said, Sheik, you're positive. He says, see, I told you, everything is okay. I said, no. No, you tested positive. That means you flunked. So,
Yeah.
no. Well, if I did, then what about him, and him? Because we were all doing the same thing last night. It was like, he stooged everybody off. It's like, oh, my God.
Yeah.
So what I remember is those other guys also got tested, but they didn't get fined, and he was a little bit upset about that. But yes, of course. If you're there in the same room or in the same place doing whatever you're doing, then everybody gets the same thing.
Ragu Overlord. Guess Classy Freddie Blassie, the Sheik, and Nikolai Volkov will be cutting a promo on a pencil neck geek right now. Don't say USA.
I wonder if everybody's up there booking stuff or if they're just kind of hanging out going, thank God we're off tonight. I mean, that must be a pretty cool place. So for those guys to sit around and hang around. And I have this theory that no matter where you are, the people that you loved who passed away, or they're going to be with you no matter what. It's just, it's how you talk to them. And when you finally go, nobody knows what it's like on the other side, but I think it'll be kind of cool because there's no arguments, there's no fighting, there's just glad to see you again, I hope.
Yep. Russell, been a wrestling fan since he was 4. He's seen many famous wrestlers, R.I.P. Iron Sheik. Michael says that the Jerry Briscoe had said Andre didn't like Iron Sheik. Interesting.
Maybe. But only they know for sure. That's my point.
Ibsen saying people may not mention this on social media yet, but General Adnan, the other half, or really other third of the Triangle of Terror, I believe is hurting as well. Keep him in your thoughts and prayers.
Yeah.
General Adnan, Sheik Adnan El-Kaisi.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mitch Miller, I always liked Classy Freddie Blassie as his manager.
Well, Blassie was a great talker, and Sheik was a great talker. You just couldn't always understand him. So I think Freddie kind of kept him in line when needed to be. So that's another reason.
He was hired the most times after Marty Jannetty. What did Vince see in him besides talent?
I think Vince felt a loyalty to the Iron Sheik, especially during that moment of change. He came in, put the belt on him, and he was a perfect foil for Hogan. He was the perfect heel, the perfect foreign heel, especially. I'm an All-American, and the Iran madman, the Iron Sheik, is going to pay for it. So I think Vince was loyal and appreciated what Sheik did. You know the old story about Vern Gagne.
Wanted to break Hogan's leg, yeah.
Yeah, and there would be nothing to really stop Sheik from doing that. I mean, but Sheik and Baby was smart enough to understand that Vern wasn't wasn't Vince, and Vince had big plans, and I think more people had faith in Vince than they did Vern. Obviously, they did.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah,
Mastodon, any thoughts on his run as Colonel Mustafa in 91, 92?
I think again he was happy to be there, and he did a great job for being what he was and what he was supposed to do.
How come many wrestlers did not go to Mean Gene's funeral? Wow, I didn't know that.
Well, I don't know either, and there's a lot of reasons uh, that only the boys know, that only you know why you're not going somewhere. And there's reasons why I will make it a point to go somewhere and uh, to a funeral. At the same time, I can't go to all the funerals. Nobody can, and I think they understand that. The person who passed away, and maybe the family won't, but I think the person who passed away understands. I mean, if you haven't talked in a while, if you haven't seen somebody in a while, and you feel like you have to go, then by all means go. But sometimes it's just not feasible. It's not you're not able to go. People have obligations and life.
Good day said in the Iron Sheik's non-WWE Hall of Fame acceptance speech a few years ago, he showed clear signs that he was "quote unquote" in on the jokes. He said that Brian Blair was his friend. R.I.P.
Right, and that goes back to the Andre thing too. Only they know.
Yep.
You know, Andre may have said he didn't like the Sheik, and once he gets in the ring, then he realizes. Um, that's just my take on it. I mean, I think Cosgrove knew how to be what he needed to be. He was not a dumb guy. He really wasn't. He did things like the rest of us did. So,
Did you ever travel with the Sheik, and who drove? Thanks.
oh no, I never did. I never really traveled with him. When I was in Atlanta, baby faces and heels were not allowed to travel together, and really Atlanta was the only place I was with him where I worked matches where we were in the same territory. So
Polar Burr says R.I.P. to the Sheik. Phil says they're hanging out with Gene Mean right now
mm,
up there in heaven.
well, they're probably having a few drinks and telling stories, and that works. Hello, Matthew Holland.
Hello, Tom Prichard. Wow, full name.
Yes, good. Well, I do have a full name, John.
I just like that he put that in.
No, that's good.
Does Tom know who Dan Marade is? The guy from Boston, Dan Marade?
I don't know, man, but the name does sound familiar.
Ben said, "Did the Iron Sheik hold any championships in AWA?" Not that I know of.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think
Now,
he did.
as far as Sheiky Baby, we might get a couple more comments about him, but we did have a couple comments come up about somebody we want to talk about. That was Magnum TA, who just had the very good Dark Side of the Ring episode that aired last night. I just thought that was some good stuff there. So this just came in from Magazine Retriever. A number of people speculate that Magnum TA could have been world champion, but it's difficult to say. We've seen many talented wrestlers who were never given the world strap.
Well, I think on the dark side, I just watched that this afternoon. They said they had a meeting in New York.
Yeah, and they gave Bob Geigel and everybody gave it the thumbs up. Yep.
Yeah, and that's the way they would do things on occasion is meet with somebody and tell them, okay, this is what we have planned, and this is the lead up to it, and about 8 months from now, this is what we're going to do. So I believe he certainly would have, and I knew Magnum when he broke in Texas, and he was just a big green guy too. You know, we teamed together a couple times, we wrestled each other a couple times, and then we broke off and went our different ways. So
It's
yeah,
pretty amazing. I didn't realize you guys were like teaming and wrestling in 1981 in Houston, Texas. I didn't
right,
realize it until I looked it
right,
up. Very
yeah,
cool.
yeah. It was very cool, and he had the size, he had the ability, and they were getting ready to groom him. And once they sent him to Florida, I think that's where he said he really got the education. He got the education from Watts, and then he furthered it with Eddie Graham in Florida. So he has some good mentors on his side.
I love that Dusty gave him the idea for the motorcycle and the
Mm,
jacket, and he told him, don't quit yet. But he didn't exactly tell him that like that's his new gimmick. But he kind of like pushed it on him and told him like to do that and to drive through the arena like that. And all of a sudden
uh,
they see him and the crowd goes nuts because they see him driving in. Like, yeah, this is your gimmick now. Like, obviously
right.
Dusty knew it would work. Yeah,
See, that's I don't know why it's missing today, but guys like Dusty who could see something and create a storyline is missing. There's not a lot of that going on today, and it's pretty
yeah.
simple, basic stuff that works in the long run. And as long as you cultivate it and find authenticity along the way, you have to be authentic to begin with, but you got to find it along the way as well, and never stop looking for it.
From Dell Mountain, hearing Barry Darso describe Magnum TA's accent is very impactful. Barry seemed almost as upset as Magnum himself was.
Well, I think a lot of people were upset because this was a guy at the top of the cards, and he was going to be the guy leading the company shortly. And Jimmy Garvin talks about the angle, and then they never got to fulfill it because the accident happened. So,
And
um,
obviously, that would have led up to Magnum versus Flair at Starcading, and he probably would have won instead of Nikita versus Flair, and obviously Flair retained.
right, right. So, I think a lot of people were upset just for business, for personal reasons, no matter what it is.
Phil, going back to the Dan point. Dan, yes, Dan is from Boston, a friend of mine and friend of the Iron Sheik.
Okay. I've heard the name. I think I just don't know.
MWF, that's what it is. Yes, in Boston.
Okay. Yeah.
Hey, Eric Tate. Hello, Eric Tate.
Hello, Eric Tate.
Hi, cousin Philadelphia. Please ask, in addition to Magnum TA, was David Von Erich supposed to hold the belt? Was David Von Erich supposed to be NWA World Champion?
Well, let me just state the obvious. I wasn't in the meetings, but I think that's been the rumor for years. And when you look at things the way they were at the time, I wasn't, I was clueless. But then you realize the political connections of Von Erichs and what they meant to the NWA and Texas, what a territory it meant to the NWA and St. Louis and the friendship that Sam Munchnick and Fritz had. Um, yeah, I think David certainly was in line to be the next NWA champion, or shortly thereafter. He had the size. They sent him to Florida to get him groomed as a heel, just to see if he could adapt. So yeah, I think David was supposed to get the title too.
Jason says during his run, Magnum TA had an uncanny resemblance to Jake the Snake Roberts.
Yeah, but they were trying to say it was uncanny resemblance to Tom Selleck.
Yes,
He did look like Jake, but with a better body and
about 5 inches shorter. I mean, not that he
yeah,
was small. Jake is just about 6'7". I mean, Jake was a
yeah,
monster. Yeah, but
yeah,
skinny.
yeah. But he did in the face a little bit look like Jake, and man, just we could go all night long saying what if, what if, what if, but what happened happened and changed the course of history.
Baby Doll said Tully and Magnum didn't really get along backstage in the 80s.
Mm. Well, when Magnum was in San Antonio, Tully was on top, Tully and Gino. and Magnum was just starting. So that could have something to do with it. The egos and political bullshit that was going on. I'm sure it was something with that anybody who had to deal with Tully or the Horsemen or any of those top guys found out that they're top guys for a reason because they're going to fight for their spot. They're going to be um, suggesting storylines that may not always work for you, but they're going to make sure it damn sure works for them. And I can see Tony and Magnum maybe not having the best relationship all the time backstage.
Yeah, Tully told me they didn't really get along well, but it actually worked out better for the feud. He said, yes, they would like sometimes potato each other, but it
Right.
worked out better for the feud because it literally seemed real. You know, it's like, wow, these guys really hate each other. Just
Well, it was
it
like
worked.
Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, same
Yep.
thing.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's good to have that rivalry. It really is.
Joel Cuevas says Magnum TA is no Hulk Hogan. Who
No,
is?
no,
Who
that's
is?
what I'm
Nobody is.
saying.
Yeah.
There is only one Hulk Hogan, but Magnum was, it's Magnum was in a league all by himself, like Ric Flair, like Hulk Hogan, like the Four Horsemen. No, he wouldn't be Hulk Hogan, but he would certainly be Magnum TA, and I think he could have carried the ball, no doubt.
Yes. Yep. He says that he's equivalent to Buff Bagwell. That's an interesting one. No, definitely not. No way. I would put Magnum to
Well,
more towards the top of the card.
number
Even
one,
though
he's
Buff
saying
is upper mid card higher.
he's talking about Magnus, is what he says up there. I don't know if you read the.
Oh, he spelled it wrong. Yeah, it puts
Yeah.
it instead of Magnum, it says Magnus TA.
No, Buff and Magnum are totally different.
Yeah. Hey, from Aunt Dog. Love you, Doc.
And dog, you got that dog in you. That's good.
If Magnum showed up to your school, what would you tell him to teach your students about?
How he got over. Look, it's not about the moves. It's not about all the wrestling. It really is about connecting with fans and being a star. And not everybody knows how to be a star. I can tell you because I've seen it, I've been around it. But to duplicate it or replicate it or do it, you either have it or you don't. And Magnum had it. He understood. You can't teach someone how to be 6'3", 6'4". You can't necessarily teach them how to have charisma. You can ask them to watch people with charisma and maybe steal it from them, but you have to have that gravitas. And I use that word a lot, but I would ask Magnum to tell the kids how he found his gravitas, how he found his confidence, and what the process was, what the steps are. Because I can teach you how to do a top wrist lock or a hammer lock, but that's just to get you where you need to be in the match. The rest is so important, from being able to talk, communicate, promos, look to look, walk to walk, talk to talk, how to ride a Harley Davidson to the building. That's Dusty Rhodes. That's genius to tell someone, look, go buy a Harley, ride up to the building, and you'll get over. Not everybody knows that. Not everybody can do that. Not everybody understands it. So there's a lot of elements that are involved, and from somebody who's done that, been there, done that, that's what you need to hear.
Barry Windham was supposed to hold the belt as well from Little Patty.
But Barry Windham did hold the belt.
Yeah, but years later, yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
From Scorch, a few years ago, there was a round table of wrestlers sitting with Magnum TA. They all showed their support for him. I think it meant a lot for Magnum.
I think it meant a lot to Magnum too. Anybody who's behind you, especially after what you've been through, certainly did.
I don't know how old they are, but he's got twins, boy and a girl. I think they're probably 13-ish.
Maybe.
So he's doing pretty good. He's got a good job. I mean, Magnum's doing pretty good. You can't really knock him. He didn't give up. I mean, he's not bitter at all. I mean, he did great after that horrible accident.
Yeah. I mean, life throws you some curves, and we've all been thrown curves. It doesn't happen the way we always like it to be, but he worked it out. And Wahoo really did help put Magnum over. I agree.
Random question: what is your favorite movie, Dr. Tom?
Reservoir Dogs.
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good.
It is a
Have you
good
ever
one.
seen a great movie called The Usual Suspects?
I have not. I know what
Oh,
I've seen the bits and pieces of it where the lineup comes, but I have not. The
oh,
Reservoir Dogs just connects with me. I like Moneyball a lot too. That's become one of my new favorite movies too, just because it is so much like wrestling. Um, in the sense that there's more to it than just the game.
yes,
It really is. There's more to it than just the game.
yes. Happy Hump Day from Mike H. Yes, Happy Hump Day. You
It
know
is
what's
a
a
great hump day.
you know what's a great movie? One of my favorites that you would absolutely love, and I'm sure you've seen it before. John Wayne, The Shootist, his last movie. Love that.
I have not seen The Shootist.
Oh my god!
No.
So it parallels him doing, and he had cancer, whatever. It parallels his career being over, but the movie is very eerily similar because it's like him going for his last gunfight, and he's setting it up like he knows it's going to be his last one. It's very interesting, very cool, but it's
Good
eerily
storyline.
similar. Yeah, but eerily similar to his real life too. So it's like, wow, holy shit! It was his last movie. Really, really good. I'm surprised you haven't seen that. You love John Wayne.
I well, who doesn't love John Wayne?
Well, yeah.
Thank you. So,
Jason, the car Magnum had in his accident, 911 Turbo had a reputation of being called the Widowmaker. It's a good thing he survived.
wow, it is a good thing he survived. Brett Armstrong had a 911 Turbo as well when he first got to Atlanta, and he was making really good money. And we drove in the car, and I remember him just saying what a piece of shit it was. He thought, he always wanted to get a Porsche, and finally did, and he wasn't real happy with it. So, I don't know, man. Nice fast cars and nice fast cars, but I don't need to go that fast these days.
Magazine Retriever, do you think that a gimmick like Magnum TA would get over today or could get over today, or is it too 1980s ish?
I think it's all up to the person you're putting it on and doing it with. Could it be done today with a big, good looking guy who looks like a movie star on TV in a series? Yeah, it could be. It could be done if he has the charisma, the maturity, and understands showbiz,
I
understands
think it
how to
would be
connect.
I think it could work today, but as a heel. Like he thinks he's a movie star, like he's this big, huge guy. He's tough. He's like a little bit of a street fighter. I think it would work as a heel today. It would be
Well,
really
look at Razor Ramon.
mm,
Razor looked big, good looking guy.
yep.
Um, Copied something from Scarface. Vince didn't watch the movie, so he thought it was the most original thing he'd ever seen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, and so it's just the manner it's presented, and the manner the guy wants to present it in.
Polar Bear's throwing his 2 cents in. He says Goodfellas, one of the best movies.
Mm. Goodfellas is a good movie, but my favorite is Reservoir Dogs because it's Tarantino's first movie, and he tells a story, and you don't know where it's going, but
What about Stuck in the Middle with You? That great scene from the
it's a
movie.
great scene. That's an awesome scene. But just learning the dialogue that he had to learn to get in with these jewel thieves, and then he's got to tell the story. And I tell
Yeah.
people all the time, you need to watch that because that's what you need to do when you're cutting a promo. You're telling stories, and people want to
Yep.
hear stories more than they want to see it. I've never heard anybody leave the arena saying, "Boy, that John Cena has a great hammerlock."
Yeah.
Not once. But it's hustle, loyalty, respect, and it's what he says and how he does it, and how he does what he says, and it's a spectacle. We got to understand that.
Love the Shootist with Ron Howard. Yes, young Ron Howard is in that movie with
Oh,
John
he's
Wayne.
in there.
Yep. Yep. He's
Son of a
probably
gun.
17 at that point. Yeah, he's a little bit older. Yep.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm not
Yeah,
making a point. Yeah.
I gotta see it. What do you think of the wrestler with Mickey Rourke?
Well, it was okay. I mean, it, they 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 crammed it all in what, hour and a half, whatever it was,
Hour 40 probably. Yeah,
hour and 45 minutes, whatever it was.
it's a
But
little sad. You know.
yeah, the part where he sees his daughter and he buys her whatever he buys her a dress, and they're talking, and at the end what happens at the end? Does he die? He jumps off the top rope. Does he survive? I don't know, but it was too. I've seen those scenes too many times to, it was just like with the guys in the beginning of the movie. You're sitting around a table and they're falling asleep, and it's like, oh, don't make me watch this. And I did. I watched it because I've seen it. I've seen it other places, and I just kind of cringed because it's like, why?
Shawshank Redemption, says Phil. That's a great movie.
That's a good movie, but if you ask me one that I really enjoy, you ever seen Memento?
Yes.
Okay.
Love
Did
that
you?
movie. Yes.
Okay, I liked it too. Did you get it? You understood they were going backwards to get to
Yes.
the. Okay.
Yes. I actually have
So
a DVD copy of it. I haven't watched it, but supposedly they play it forward. But it wouldn't be
right,
as good
yes,
if you watch it forward.
I have the DVD
Oh,
too.
you
My
do?
wife,
Okay.
my wife got it for me because we went to go see this, and she didn't like it at all because it's going backwards. And I'm explaining to
But
her. I said, "Look, no, this is. You just got to wait for it. You can't try and figure it out yet. In the end, it'll all be clear."
yep.
And she bought me the DVD, and yeah, you can watch it forwards too, but I don't. I'd rather see it backwards.
Guy Pearce is a star. Great actor. He's also in a great movie, L.A. Confidential, which is another great movie.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one either, but there's a lot of great movies out there. I like Goodfellas. Goodfellas is one that I'll watch anytime it's on TV. I will stop and watch it.
Goodfellas is good, but I don't know why I like Casino better.
Casino,
It's very similar, yeah, obviously.
very similar, but you're right. Casino is a good storytelling, but yeah, Casino's more Vegasy, and Goodfellas is more Vegasy.
Well,
I guess
New York, really, yeah.
New York, yeah. It's just it's insane.
Steven says, can Rufus R. Jones work in today's wrestling?
I don't think so. I mean, I could be wrong, but I think Rufus might be outdated and canceled.
What about his son? Could that gimmick work in today's wrestling?
You talking about Slick? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they're still on TV on Sunday morning, so I think
Yeah.
it just had to be updated.
Phil says, what about Bronx Tale? Ooh, that's a good one.
Missed that one too.
Oh my God. What are you're missing all these great movies. Oh my
I
God.
was on the road pioneering this business, John. I was trying to make it a better place for you when you saw wrestling.
Could Ox Baker work today?
Yes, Ox had a great look. Yeah, I think Ox being Ox, he could definitely do it.
Mitch says, Jive Soul Bro.
Sure,
Polar Bear says, LOL. What about Akeem?
sure. I think Hakeem could if given the right opponents. I heard something the other day about Karrion Cross, and said he wasn't getting over, and they wondered why. So what's missing? But the difference between, and I like Karrion Cross, nice guy,
Yeah.
but
Awesome.
difference between a Karrion Cross and an Akeem is Akeem understood how to connect and how to do his job and how to do his stuff, and he had enough under his belt. That's just my opinion, to connect with the audience and tell a story. So Karrion Cross is kind of struggling right now.
From Barbara, please tell us how to get Dr. Tom's book. I believe it was endorsed by The Rock and the Iron Sheik.
Oh, I can't believe. Well, you can get that book. Yes, you can. At jpwrestlingacademy.com. Click the training tab at the top of the page there. Yeah.
The Rock right there.
There you go. And yeah, Piper. So you can hit the training tab. Go to jpwrestlingacademy.com. You'll find it. Also, you will find a place to apply for our next session, which begins July 3rd, 2023. So, jpwrestlingacademy.com has all the information for the book and training.
All right. And Barbara wants to know about a signed copy.
Oh, if you want a signed copy, email me at jpwrestlingacademy@gmail.com and we can get a signed copy to you too.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you. He thanks us, but thank you, Jason. And thank you, everybody out there, for listening. At first, I'll just want to mention real quickly, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at 2Man Power Trip. Check out the website, tmptempire.com. Follow Dr. Tom on Twitter at Dr. Tom Prichard. Dr. Tom, anything else crazy? Anything else going on?
Just got JPWA stuff going on. Next couple of weeks, we're going to be getting ready for the graduation, and we're out of here.
Nice. Good stuff. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We'll see you right back here next week for a little Take You to School with Dr. Tom Prichard. We'll see you next week, folks.